A foam milling machine sculpts sections based on the digital scan of the original, capturing a surprising amount of information, but much detail is lost and will need to be resculpted. These pieces are glued together and supported with an external armature. Oil-based sculpting clay is added to cover the surface to a thickness of 1/4 inch. Now we get to the really fun part. We get to resculpt all the details on the entire sculpture, but on this larger scale we can add even more refinements and embellishments. The mold material will capture every detail we add, even down to our fingerprints, from the top of her head to the tip of her toes. After many months, when the clay is complete, we make a mold of soft, flexible silicone rubber supported by a plaster exterior shell. Next is the wax casting. We use a microcrystalline wax called Victory Brown. We gently heat the silicone mold to help prevent bubbles on the surface when the first coat of hot wax comes into contact. Our print coat, which reproduces all surface details, is brushed or poured in at 230 degrees Fahrenheit. We clean the edges, reassemble the mold sections, and pour in a slush coat at 180 degrees, which thickens the wax cast to 3/16 of an inch. The wax cools and is demolded. We use hot wax carving pens and steel tools to dress the wax. This means we repair the seams and resculpt any details that may have been lost in the wax cast. The wax is then sent to our foundry, where they add wax sprues and gates, similar to what you see here, which will function as conduits for the molten bronze. This entire wax construction is then dipped in a liquid called ceramic shell, followed by sand. This process is repeated until a thick layer of shell is built up around all parts of the wax. This mold with the wax encased inside is put in a kiln. The firing both hardens the ceramic shell material and melts the wax out, leaving a void into which, voila, we can pour molten bronze. The raw bronze comes back to us in many pieces that have to be welded back together, one section at a time. Next, we have metal chasing. We use grinding tools, chisels, and sanders to resculpt the details that were lost in the casting or may have been obscured by the welds. It's a whole lot more fun if you get to work together on this part. The heating and cooling in the various stages of the process can cause slight misalignment of the metal, so there's often a bit of finagling to get the large pieces to fit together properly before they can be permanently attached. We tack them with a small weld, then make adjustments on the fit, sometimes resorting to more persuasive methods. We use a pneumatic device to help us properly align the legs and ankles, tack and weld them, then more grinding. This is our last chance to make sure all the details are absolutely perfect. We sandblast the sculpture to unify the surface and prepare it for the patina. For this large version, Colin sculpted several birds which are part of the story the sculpture is based on. Because the birds need to appear to be hovering around her, we wanted just the wingtips touching to create the illusion that they're not as heavy as they are. We welded tabs on the undersides of the wings. This reinforced the wingtips and created greater contact area for a stronger attachment. The tabs fit into channels we ground in the sculpture. Weld them in place. And more grinding and resculpting details. Now we're ready for the last step that enhances the final feeling of the sculpture, the patina. A torch is used to heat the metal, and patina chemicals are applied with brushes and spray bottles. These react with the heat and the copper and the bronze to create different colors. Layering and combining different patinas can create hundreds of beautiful effects. A thin coat of wax really brings out all the patterns and colors and protects the patina from the elements. For the installation, there are bolts welded into the underside of the sculpture. All thread is screwed into the bolts, which will give more grip to the adhesive and anchor the sculpture to the base. And there we have Wind in the Waves. in her beautiful new home.